Welcome to Printer Games, podcasting for gaming. I'm one of your hosts, Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Param, and I'm joined by
Kristen Soward's also known as Seventh Mastery.
Kristen. I've got a little bit of printing in this week, but I've been very busy with a thing that some of you may have noticed, and I'll mention more in shout outs.
Okay, well, interesting.
Mm-hmm. But I did get to print some of those Artisan Guild High Elves that we've been looking at. Yes,
Nice. The only thing I've printed recently is accessories, and it was just for like status marker stuff, which is cool, and it's gonna be very useful. In fact, I find I think those things are like, I just printed a tray of status markers, whatever, or whatever, and then that ends up being something I use like all the time, right? So that's all I've done this week, though, and it was not very much. But tell me about your high elves. High elves?
Yeah, I'm not going to use them. They're not even for me. They're for younger siblings. They are doing this really neat Northern United Tribes idea for a force, and we're like building the custom list in Army Forge Studio. So we're having to build the whole army up from scratch, and we like all these cool ideas. And like Frost Elves are like what they needed for the army. There are no Frost Elves, but the High Elves, we're going to frosty them up.
You're going to
snowman style.
Frosty the elves.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah. And it's going to be fun. And they print out super easy. We're doing 32 millimeter scale, fully embracing the 32 millimeter world in our gaming lately, as I've mentioned in the past.
Yep.
And boy, is 32 millimeters so much easier to paint. It's like it's not a day easier to paint. Like you just get in there on those eyeballs, and you can like, ooh, I've got the cornea and the retina and the catch light and the B catch light, like 2 or 3 catch lights in this eyeball.
I mean, it's true. And like, I can, do it. Like, was it 20, 25, 28, 28? What's the normal one? 28?
28 millimeters normal.
That's one. Yeah. I can do them, but it's 32 is really nice. And there's just so many good companies doing it, right?
Especially if they want to go true scale, because 28 wasn't so bad on heroic scale models like Reaper and Warhammer and those models where the heads are bigger.
Right.
But with true scale 28 millimeters, which is like Nozzlers or the WizKids stuff or the Pathfinder minis that WizKids makes, are all true scale 28 millimeters. And those are really tiny eyeballs. Really tiny.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And we got lots of people in chat. Holy goodness.
We do. Well, my T-Witch, as I call it, because you can't say Twitch on TikTok. The algorithm like deep throttles it. So I call it T-Witch because it's T-Witch. Anyway, yeah, a lot of people popping in from there. Floopy, who's amazing. He's actually also a moderator on my Discord.
Woohoo!
Also, though, I saw Net, I think, in there too.
Yep, Net 1052.
And then we have our old guard, James, and Blasted Camouflage, and Six Guns and Sorcery. I think.
Howdy, y'all.
One more person that I saw down there, but it's scrolled out.
That is a reminder that we record live in front of a digital audience. I'm used to saying a Twitch audience from No Direction days, but like mostly it's YouTube and your Twitch and
my Twitch. So there is a Twitch audience. It's just not the main Twitch audience.
Yeah.
Most of my Twitch audience is used to Magic the Gathering streams, oddly enough. So,
which is fun because that's definitely not a game that I have adopted because of 3D printing. And that's sort of the topic that we're going to be talking about today is, has 3D printing changed what games you play and how you play your games? Like, how has this affected the actual choices you make about what time you spend at the table?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would have to say so. And like, I think the most obvious is I've always been a fan of wargaming, and I've always like had dreams of like old Warhammer Fantasy battle armies and stuff. And I've made a couple of attempts at getting into that world. Local community just wasn't there. So anytime I'm, and that's not a deterrent when you want to play a game that's not in your community, you have two choices. You either have to go and travel to where that community is, or you have to make your own community. And I have had very successful efforts making my own communities of whatever games I want to play. But if I'm going to go through that effort, I need to do so in a game I believe in because I need to become the evangelist. I need to become. It's a bit of a
What?
toxic term, but I need to become the alpha gamer of
The
the
alpha
area.
gamer. I love it. I love it. Not the alpha
It
gamer.
is an industry term. It is a little bit toxic, but
Dude, get leap, bro.
yeah. So like basically if you want to basically become the community leader that pushes a game in your area, it becomes a lot easier to get a game to grow in your area if you're willing to do that. It does require a bit of extrovert tendencies, a whole lot of patience, and if you can embrace your inner Mr. Rogers, all the better.
Or
Mhm.
excellent masking skills.
Those I did mention you're Mr. Roger, right?
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
I just have to believe that like Mr. Rogers is just like an epic level of masking.
Maybe. Although he might have just been real. Maybe it was real, Param. Maybe like Santa Claus, he was real. You went quiet. You haven't gone quiet in so long.
I
Who
just
are
at
you?
this point in time, I'm just fully invested in the Jim Butcher Santa Claus is just Odin thing that like I'm not sure that embracing my inner Santa Claus will get this job done the way I'm expecting it to be.
I mean, Odin's pretty amazing, so I think that still works. Still works. I mean, you might have like some sort of weird body part exchange requisite to get your effect, though.
And so I wanted to get into wargaming, and that kind of was actually the impetus for me to get into 3D printing.
Right.
Because younger sibling wanted to play war games as excuse to paint minis, and if I didn't have a 3D printer, how this would have gone in a very different direction. I would have embraced the Stargraves. I would have embraced like indie skirmish level gaming. Warhammer doesn't really have a scene in my area because I live in a very impoverished area, and Warhammer takes money, and people around here ain't got Warhammer money.
That is a fact. That is a fact for sure. I mean, and that even goes into the games I do. But we're gonna wait. I'll jump in when you're done here.
Yeah. So the war games that do pop up around here are like usually like HeroClix or skirmish games or indie games. Frostgrave was really big here. Stargrave would have been a fun choice. It wasn't out yet. But like I would have gotten into a skirmish game or an indie game and I would have evangelized it in the local area. But because the magic box that makes all the toys I want for free or near free exists, I was able to start evangelizing like actual army scale gaming because like it became like goodness, like we've talked on the podcast before many times about how fast you can print off a 2,000 point army. Is like it's a weekend project. It's not even an investment to get it printed and based. The real investment is the painting said gigantic army,
which is another thing I'm going to come back to, by the way.
Yeah. So that was a way that 3D printing affected my choice of game. Like instead of going with a skirmish scale game where I would have had a dozen or so for members to the forces and probably had, or I would have like maybe played Legion, which is like a sub 30 models on the side, or Shatterpoint or Elder Scrolls, or like lots of really fun games. That have much lower model requirements, and heck, you can even play a Song of Ice and Fire because at $200 you can get into that game with a competitive force as opposed to $500, which is bare minimum investment in Warhammer.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we often use the box set metric. How many, Leviathan box sets or how many, whatever it is, as our measuring stick, and it's not that many to get into 3D printing.
Yeah. Like a Horus Heresy would get you completely into 3D printing with a wash and clean station at this point.
Yep.
And your first army.
True. I mean, there's so many people running like ridiculous resin sales right now.
Yeah. And I guess that's the kind of the low hanging fruit choice. Like that affected what, and also when I got into army scale gaming, I kind of migrated towards games that had communities that had already embraced 3D printing as opposed to communities that were very antagonistic. It's like, yes, like I know that like printing for Warhammer 40K is like a very popular and profitable niche to fill in the 3D printing space. But like that is a very divided community sometimes as to whether 3D printed models are even welcome at the table. Whereas if you go
Yes.
into the Kings of War or OPR side of the world, and 3D printing and whatever models you want to bring uh, is more than welcome. And in fact, the more creative and unique your army is, the better most of the time. Like especially like in the Kings of War forums, they just love showing off all the fun, rare, cool conversion, weird themed, epically based armies they can throw together.
Indeed, indeed. Should I start or you?
Your
Yes.
turn. We
Oh,
go back and forth. Let's take turns.
That's fine. James just threw out though on a tail end of your comment, very gatekeeping attitude. Kind of is. And it's the community too. The community has swallowed that poison because I get told all the time, no 3D printing at this table. No 3D printing at this table. And boy, that pushes you out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But with OPR and Kings of War and all these other games that are kind of more mature agnostic coming out, that's going to definitely drive that. But that's not really why I, of course, got into 3D printing.
Right.
Instead of for me 3D printing forcing how I played a game or warping how my perspective, right? For me, it was 3D printing was a solve. I mean, if anybody knows me, obviously I play a ton of RPGs, Pathfinder, D&D, et cetera, a lot of 5e, a lot of Pathfinder First Edition. And I also write stuff for them. And as someone who is a content creator, both in social media spaces, but also more importantly in game design spaces, I make weird stuff up. Like for instance, when I was doing some stuff for TPK games, I made monsters called Truth Eaters. And Truth Eaters are, like they have a very specific like vibe. And normally speaking, I would just be like, oh, I'll just put out this random mini. I guess I'll use the Mind Flayer because it's kind of close, But like to have 3D printing and actually go, no, I'm going to look through Bestarium or Fleshcraft Studios or whatever it is and find something that's almost exactly right, like really close. And suddenly, I can take this thing and, bring it into reality that looks so much more like what I want to. Also, I can move away from standard color schemes. I can move away from, because, like you get by your Mind Flayers and always like purple or gray or whatever, but like, I could instead, pop in something and make something really unusual. Like I did, I don't know if you remember for my Chaos Army that I did with the geometric shapes, and I did the gradient because I was trying my airbrush for the first time. And you can be more inventive and creative. You can represent the broader spectrum of the imagination. So it's just a better tool, right? And so instead of like shaping maybe what game I chose, it changed how I played the game I was doing. Like instead of moving like to approximate my imagination, I started to get like, no, this is actually like really spot on. And, I have people in my groups that have aphantasia. And if you're not familiar with what that is, if you're listening to the show, basically it's whether or not you can visualize in your mind, and they can't do theater of the mind games. And so because of that, and it's important to me, for the people with that, condition to be able to enjoy the game just as much as anybody, I want minis that are unique and different and vivid. And you can't do that. And we're talking about gatekeeping via money. You can't buy, unless you're sponsored or something like by WizKids, you're not going to get that breadth of mini, every week without using 3D printing to drive that cost down.
Pre 3D printing to get first, the amount of sculpts out there in the world was drastically lower. Like there's more availability with 3D printing now than there ever was before. And pre 3D printing, Creature Caster existed, and their models were still awesome, and they cost a blasted fortune because they were bespoke resin printed stuff, and it was the thing of legends. And to have a Creature Caster mini in your collection was something to be proud of and an investment. It wasn't something you would just do casually for a one-off in a game. At least, like not usually, unless you were wanting to spend $50 to $100 per model to getting them on the table, which is within the realm of what it would have cost pre 3D printing to get some of those beasties.
Right. I mean, and they're freaking fantastic stuff.
Oh yeah, they're wonderful quality.
But yeah, that also leads me to another thing, which is I was terrified to spend money on a pre-paint or a unpainted like Nolzur's or whatever it was, and then have one shot, at painting it myself, have one shot at altering it myself. I mean, yes, you can use like, what is it? Simple green and like strip stuff off and try again, et cetera, et cetera. But like to actually just be able to like play and experiment and do these things and mod and kit bash and all that stuff. Like, again, just this huge open up to how I do stuff. Then it started changing how I was going to play other games. But I'll pass back to you for a second.
Well,
where do you want
kit bashing specifically is something that I did a lot for character minis. Like I would often, me and my friend Pat, who's the other like miniature hobbyist in my little local RPG group, we would both like geek out about how kit bashy we were for our specific RP characters. You get like the perfect mini for the characters where I'm like buying, but that was an expensive indulgence back then. Like to get like one character, like I wanted to play this like portly like scholar mage for a game I was in. So like had to buy like 3 different metal miniatures and then some extra bits from Reaper and some old Grenadier stuff and some stuff I picked up at Gen Con, and like it was like 5 different sources. I spent more than $60 in just different miniatures that I then chopped to pieces to glue together into one model and then painted up and all that jazz. And that gets, I didn't have the fear. I jumped in, and always did this. Like I jumped into these crafts full force, but like,
oh yeah,
you screw it up and you're out $50 easy.
Unless
for one 28mm character model.
Unless you are so enthusiastic, you make a mistake and bake resin all over your printer.
I mean, that happens.
That happens.
That happens. That's just something you can't premiere. Yeah.
I will always cop to my catastrophic failure, people. Don't be me, kids. Don't get resin in your eye either. It hurts.
In the post 3D printing world, every character I play can be as bespoke as I want it to be, and digital kit bashing is like half the fun of the hobby for me. And not just individual character minis. I've kit bashed entire like 20-man units for armies. It's like my spear infantry for my human army that I use for different games. My little pack squad is 100% unique. Nobody's got anything like it, and it's got like 9 different original sculpts in it.
Yeah,
posed up with a custom captain and a mounted general to match, and a whole squad of chocobo riding halfling. That
one of the first things I saw that you did, I was just like, it's like one of those things. I just didn't think you could get cooler, and then you got even cooler. Those chocobos were like, what?
And did you see the little shrine I made with the chocobo and pulling the airship and the twin halfling casters?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like you can just go cool and nuts with it, and I just love this that's possible now. And all this was possible before, like the Warhammer. Like one of my friends is doing it. One of my friends from OPR is doing this really cool conversion with Necrons and Nighthaunt and kit bashing those together to make a Necron army that has like ghostly forms that goes across the field. And he's doing it the old-fashioned way with plastic and pliers and saws. And it's fun as crap, and it looks awesome.
But you could just
that's very expensive, because that's buying 2 Warhammer armies to make one. I want
to circle back since you brought it up. We had a Net who actually just left for dinner, I think, in chat, but did call out that you also have translucent materials, which that change, for spell effects. Obviously, I don't shut up about spell effects on the show, but like for the Necrons and the phantasmal stuff, to actually just have that available. And that used to be like high end, either like 3 or 4 minis a year or whatever, and then like Nolzur's finally started getting like more translucent, like fire and stuff like that. But now it's just like you can just do it. Like
I used to geek out when they would just like make versions of Reaper minis that were in clear plastic, and they went invisibility version.
Yeah, exactly. That was a weird flex, but yeah.
You can do that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's a way that's like like I've been able to indulge a hobby that I had already been indulging in, but was way, way, way more expensive to do it that way. And like also there's like besides the 3D printing for the wargaming stuff, um has it changed anything else? Like I know for
me,
me it's made like terrain heavy gaming an affordable and fun option. I've had terrain in all my games for a very long time. And I'm nice and privileged for multiple reasons, that I have access to things I'm thankful for, both money wise and friendly relations with game companies that will occasionally send me stuff.
Someday I'll be that cool. Till then, I will live vicariously through you.
And I'm just saying that to check my privilege, basically.
No, it's okay. I mean,
but it does mean that I have
other challenges. It's fine. Life is a balance.
Yeah. So it does mean that I have had access to like full Dwarven Forge collections and every permutation of like cardboard terrain and stuff. And the big hesitations I always had there is, well, it's great at building the thing you have, but when you have to customize it, it's rough.
Can be, for sure, for sure.
And very expensive very fast. Like full Dwarven Forge stuff is wonderful, absolutely wonderful to look at. But like if you want to have cool shrine dedicated to this specific goddess of darkness, and you want this neat trap and like very bespoke stuff that isn't just cobblestone corners and stuff, then you have two options. Either you craft it bespoke and use it that one time and you spend a ton of your time and effort and money for a one shot, or you use one of the prefabricated options, or in which case people keep saying, it's that same demon statue.
Right. That is the worst.
7th dungeon in a row. Like I kind of dig that Pathfinder because they used the flip maps. They gave that one boon you could get. I think this place looks familiar, I think is the name of the boon.
Oh, really? I must have missed that one. So from a reused map?
If your character is how it worked in Pathfinder is because they would reuse the maps in Pathfinder Society, they would use the flip maps, and this place looks familiar was a boon that would let you get a bonus to your initiative if you played on a flip map that was used in an adventure that character has played in before.
That's amazing.
Which is, it's a fun little bit of meta, and then, but well, again, enter 3D printing, and then in an afternoon you can print a completely bespoke customizable things, which is kind of why I went with paper craft terrain over Dwarven Forge, even though I had access and money for both. Because in paper, when I wanted to completely customize something, it was just opening Photoshop and making it happen and printing it off and assembling it. And now I can open up Blender and slap together whatever it is I need and then 3D print it, and the same amount of effort, less effort, honestly, because like some of that papercraft stuff, it can take you like a good hour to get like some of the intricate stuff cut and glued together rightly, and then like get all your edge lining done. And
well, and here's my other thing. Then you take your Behir and put it on top of the papercraft, and what happens?
My stuff is fine.
Yeah, because you're like a structural engineer, but my stuff bent and collapsed. And so not only had I wasted all that money or bought that cardboard kit or printed out all my ink cartridges, then I just crushed it. And so I often would just I'd lose three-dimensionality. Like I would lose that whole 3D effect. And then, here comes my first FDM print job. Which was I think that Ruin set. I was like, I can put like a dragon on top of these things.
Absolutely. This stuff is freaking tank.
Yeah. It's amazing. Lava Being says use concrete reinforced paper. I'm not sure about that.
110-pound cardstock, when folded correctly with the right amount of interior supports, will hold just about anything you can throw at a game table.
Yeah. I still, I don't know. I get worried. And I also get worried about like plaster cast because it can usually support stuff, but it
Oh yeah.
chips.
Yeah, plaster cast chips. I bought so many of those little silicone. I forget who makes those. Like that is always at Gen Con. Those little blue silicone molds that you plaster cast terrain and stuff. I bought so much of that stuff, and it's just such a hassle to get a usable amount of that stuff made that way. I mean, it's a fun hobby, and I know lots of people do it, but for me, I just didn't have the patience for it. But
Yeah.
printer go vroom.
Printer go vroom.
Yeah, and
Printer go burr.
Lava Bean has an interesting question on this topic. Has 3D printing allowed you to minimize the total amount of terrain you keep long term, or has it only increased?
Interesting.
I've embraced the disposability of 3D printed objects now, and it is so
No, I'm a hoarder.
it's just like, oh, I'm done with this trash. Oh,
Ah,
I'm not. I may have printed out this
it
army, but
hurts. It hurts. Stop.
I don't really want to paint it. I'm kind of bored with this project. To the rubbish bin with you.
Yeah, no. I'm
And
a
if I
hoarder.
change my mind,
Lava
it's
being,
it's
I'm a
12
hoarder.
hours on the Saturn later, and I've got it back again.
Yeah.
The only thing that makes something permanent is if I spend the effort to paint it.
Yeah. I mean, sure. Although terrain can look really good with like multicolor prime job, dry brush. Maybe if you want to go fancy, a little wash.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not that hard. I don't know.
Yeah. For the stuff that I'm legally allowed to hand down, donating things to people who would actually want the things is good. Just it's the same, but it's like don't give books for Christmas unless you know they want them. It's like don't buy miniature kits for people unless you know they want them, because
Whatever.
unpainted miniatures are a hobby choice and a
That's fair.
commitment.
You are giving people homework, but
Yeah.
I give people books recklessly, so deal.
And as far as terrain, if it's just something I did like super, super quick, then the terrain can just go to the game store to serve as game store terrain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I just have a hard time letting it go. I get like nostalgic, especially once I've made it and like I have a good memory of like how cool it was.
This is a trauma response to this stuff being valuable, and it's no longer valuable.
Lies.
This isn't like I absolutely love my Ian Lovecraft house here. I need to paint it.
Did you just drop a piece of terrain on the floor?
No, I dropped my remote to my fireplace.
Okay.
I love my little Ian Lovecraft terrain.
That is a really, really cool thing. You're not going to throw that away.
No. I like this one. This is going to get painted up.
So what's the difference? What's the difference? I don't know.
But this isn't a $200 piece of resin cast terrain that I could only get at Gen Con or mailed ordered from Sweden. That, this was a weekend on my Ender. And if something were bad to happen to this, or I change my mind and I no longer love it, or I paint it all up and then I decide, the game store needs it more than I do, and then I change my mind, it's just another weekend and I've got it back again. This stuff isn't gold. This isn't rarity. These aren't the precious items.
No.
This stuff isn't the flex it used to be. The gates are gone now. It's not this humongous investment of wealth and material. This is like what, $20 worth of PLA, if that. Like, I don't think this was even a whole roll. I think this was like
Jamie, don't listen to his lies. It takes forever.
$10
it takes forever
worth of corn, because that's what they make the PLA out of. It's biodegradable. I could throw this through a shredder with the right additives, fill it in a landfill, and it would do nothing.
I'm not going to agree.
You're not going to agree?
I'm not going to agree.
It's all pure facts. Why is that any valuable?
Like, because it's yours now and you made it. It's like giving away a puppy or a baby. No. Anyway, clearly we don't see eye to eye on this one, kids.
This is true. But once you embrace that freedom, your storage space frees up real fast. And I'll tell you what.
I can't win this argument, so I'm just going to be quiet on that.
It's also helped me free up stuff that wasn't 3D printed.
That's fair. That's fair. Because there was stuff, again, you know, what you say, this certainly looks familiar thing, where I'm just like, I have used that little piece of terrain 8 million times, you know.
I just put a couple of hundred skeletons in a box that's getting mailed to your house because I don't want them.
Yay! But they were they pre-painted though?
Want them either? No, they're not painted.
But it has the weird like skeletal like snaky things.
Yeah.
Okay, then no, I want those.
And skeletal horses, sure. And got a whole bunch of humans and rock golems too.
Okay, you know those might go away. The rock golems are cool though; those are really cool. I like those.
Yeah, and like, there were some Reaper Bones Dracoliches that I got during Bones 1 that I was never going to paint because I didn't like it, but I held on to because I thought it was the valuable rare artifacts of gaming.
Is it the one with the big like curly tail? That's
the way too long tail.
Yeah.
Halifax. I just sold that to a game store the other day because I was like, I don't need this, and there are infinitely better dragon skeletons I can print.
Yes, and you know they have better like verticality, so that doesn't like knock everything over. I do not like. I mean, that is a cool dragon. I think it looks neat. It is a display piece. I'm just gonna be straight up about it. That is dysfunctional for your game table. It is gorgeous, but it's basically just too big. And you know, unless you're doing like a really big like set piece battle like event thing, like I would print out a loot monster like one of the big ones for like Gen Con, right? But I am not going to use that on my daily gaming table. First off, monsters of that size usually would kill any party you're running, unless you're like end game, right?
Right. That's kind of why I've adopted a house rule on all of my games, where anything above huge just gets recast down to huge on as far as what mini I use, unless it's super important that it's different.
That is fair. I have actually done that before as well. Also, especially creatures that often have like shape changing abilities. It's like, who cares? It can be little if it wants to be little.
The super awesome 21st level dragon stats are still just as scary when you put them on the huge dragon.
Sure. I'll usually still go up to like gargantuan, you know, but usually when you get to like colossal and stuff like that in any of these games, it's the size rules just get wonky anyway, right? So it's either 5e, make it up, athletics, climbing, something or other, or it's like, you know, just doesn't work unless you're using Alex Agunis's cool size mod for Pathfinder 1, which was really neat. But
and I have the Colossal Red from way back in the day, the Wizard of the Coast Colossal Red.
Do you see this look on my face?
And I love it to pieces. And
I feel like everybody I know got that but me. I swear. Yeah.
I remember buying it at the time, and like my friends were making fun of me. It's like, you paid $75 for a plastic dragon. I'm like, yeah, I know.
I almost spit water everywhere considering how much that thing costs now.
Yeah. It was a bit of a splurge, and I'll have to eat lean for a couple of weeks, but it's worth it to me.
Yeah, and now it's like what, $500 or something?
700 at the last Gen Con.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, same thing. I want that Orcus. Then that year, like that same series as Orcus.
Yeah, I have that Orcus too.
That is really cool. Like the new Orcus it's decent, but like that was the Mac Daddy.
He was chunky boy. I like the chunky Orcus.
Yeah, I really liked it, and he's got like that big, like he's just the vibe is good. I love it.
I have to say the new WizKids Colossal Red is also kind of awesome.
I don't know if I've seen it.
It's in like a rising up, balanced on its tail pose with the wings out, and it just looks really great. I love it. I think I like it better, but I have nostalgia vibes wrapped up around the old WotC dragon.
Yes, very much. I will say this though, the breath weapon was amazing, but I almost always had to take it off. My buddy had it, and so sometimes he let me run games with it, and so I'm like, okay, let's take that off because it's like in the way of everything.
It sticks off the base. Like there's a little mount that lets it like spill over its little black base.
Yeah. It's I also because it is what it is. I've seen that thing get damaged and destroyed a whole bunch where people like the fire gets all chewed up or yeah. So we didn't talk about how it's
Ooh.
changed other games though that we dealt with, right? Like
We have a topic
oh
before we bounce out
oh
of this
okay
from
yes
Samoblade.
yes
I also love the freedom that without having to be overly cautious. If a mini breaks, I can just print another one. Even if painted, it's a minor inconvenience then. This reminds me of the demo that Fat Dragon Games, back when I did work for them, did when they were talking about their paper terrain. He would have a cigarette lighter in his hand and he would go, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just infinitely reproducible and replaceable. It's not like Dwarven Forge. And yeah, like once like they cast fireball and you just like, and then I just lit the freaking tile on fire.
yeah I don't know, like I really really like the mini breaking thing. I'm looking at Bot Simon's just comment, and like I just drop and break resin stuff all the time, and it feels bad until it's 30 cents of resin, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You flinched like on this show multiple times. I've done the I don't care about it, then just grab a mini in my range and throw it on the floor thing.
No, don't do it. There are people that don't have 3D printers in small communities who
I
need help.
dropped the lizard man on my floor.
Like right now?
Stomp.
You monster.
Oh, it's still there. Stomp.
You just enjoy this, don't you?
A
You're
little bit.
sick man.
It's unpainted resin. It's worthless. All right, other games. How has there been any other games that you play or don't play because of 3D printing?
Yes, mostly that I don't play. I
Oh,
was getting really big into board games. I loved Massive Darkness when it demoed.
okay.
And then suddenly, I had 3D printing and it was like, wait, I can make this whole thing myself now. And I suddenly became very challenged. Yeah, I really, really, really couldn't justify it anymore, right? Like I backed the last Massive Darkness, but you know why I backed it? To get a big pack of their functional doors, because that stuff is hinky to print without breaking them, like for me. And so I was like, I'll get the functional door pack, but I'm not going to get all the other stuff anymore, because why? Like I can print that. I was using I only got a little bit of the first Massive Darkness stuff, right? Because it was super cool, but the big high-end box set was already like, the Kickstarter was over and it was really hard to find. Like they have like a really cool, like, it's not a beholder. It's not, I can't believe it's not a beholder. It's an amazing model, by the way. Actually, I ended up getting 2 of them, but it took me a while. But, now I can't justify doing that, right? Like I look at it and I think, well, those are neat, but like A, big space, right? B, usually used it for D&D anyway. And the game is cool, but like, I don't think it's like cool enough to not have the ability to mod it, right? And don't get me wrong, there is a 3D printing community for modding your Massive Darkness game, because there's a 3D printing community for modding anything. But
if the game is popular enough, absolutely.
But at this point, it's like, that's the sort of thing, right? Like I see so many of these Kickstarters, and like, here's a good example. Oh, cool, Kickstarter comes out. There's this optional add-on for minis. Well, I'm not going to buy that optional add-on anymore, because I'm going to print my own, right? So like, it makes those things a lot less enticing to me. It makes the big board game box sets less enticing to me. And unless the thing has something that I consider to be a pain in the butt, which to me is terrain sometimes depending, because my FDM skills are mid, or a really big monster, like I would have probably, what is it? Is it Cthulhu Must Die or something? There's that really big one. Do you remember? We saw it at Gen Con, I think. It was actually the second year I was there, but the thing is huge. It's like, I'm not doing it justice with my hands. If you're listening to this, it's like 2.5 feet tall or something. It's this massive Cthulhu. It's one of the coolest things I've seen, like in 3D. And I think it's still maybe resin cast. I'm not sure. It might be injection molded. I don't know. But I would buy that if I really wanted it, right? Because that would also be challenging to print. And I love me resin, my resin, but sometimes resin distorts if you don't know this. And so doing a multi-section big print like that is tricky. Or, as you know, Per and I have talked about on previous episodes, you're going to have to bust out some green stuff or Dremel and pick it.
What?
What?
Milliput.
Milliput, yeah, Milliput's good. There's also like a lot of fill materials.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's just okay, big stuff I will buy sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like I still kind of want the Solar Dragon, right, from the WizKids Solar Dragon, because it's biggish and it's got like translucent wings that are really thin, and they're like the sort of thing that would look really cool, and I could probably even get a better model of it in resin, but that sort of thing translucent is going to be, unless you use a ton of Tenacious, is going to be like really brittle, right? And
Tenacious is translucent.
I know. So you could just do that, but I'm a break it. I'm clumsy. Mm-hmm. So when it's injected molded plastic that's translucent, oftentimes it's kind of squishy.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the flip side of maybe it's going to bend. So, but yeah. So I would say the biggest thing that it hit for me though is the board games, because I bought a lot of board games that had minis as like I'm going to play this board game now and then, but I'm really getting these for D&D, right? Like that was my deal. Yeah. So I think, and it actually brought me back to wargaming, because I played wargaming. I had a Tyranid army back in a long time ago. Do I say the number 95? I had a Tyranid army back then. And yeah. I kind of felt sad because, you got the point. I was working on a comic book store assistant manager's salary, and even with the discount, Warhammer was expensive back then to me. The new prices, like I love those new Tyranid things, and apparently you can scoop up some of them on eBay because they're just selling them off. But I can't still justify buying the new box sets myself, right? Mm-hmm. But the fan communities, the Patreons, and then the cooler thing, like is it Oshinimu? I'll have to get the actual spelling, but there's like aquatic variant tieflings, Tyranids, and then there's like, oh well, this is the like hell demon warped Tyranids, and like that whole thing where like you're getting like these like sub armies that we used to see, like I think of Dana Howell doing Bowser. Did you see those, the Bowser Tyranids? And like to get actual like models that support it, I don't know. I think it's incredible. So, but yeah, brought me back to wargaming at all because I was totally out of it, and then really cut into my board game spending.
For me, for my board game thing, it mostly just enhanced our board games, because it's now like the board games that we really like playing, especially the ones that are going to get more than one play. It's been like, and then print the box inserts, and then reprint the 3D cool tokens instead of the cardboard, and then get custom 3D printed minis for all the characters instead of the little 2D tokens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's just like, and then like, of course, like I fell down that Hero Quest rabbit hole. Like there is the largest of crazy communities out there for Hero Quest 3D printed options, because before Hasbro did the re-release, getting a hold of vintage Hero Quest was expensive and getting harder and harder to do as more and more copies.
Weirdly fanatical. Like I remember Game Haven's a local chain around here. Actually, my buddy owns it. It's super cool. But I was like, what do you have on your schedule? And I was like, this was before the re-release, before they did that whatever crowdfunding thing. And I was like, wait a second, like that's like the OG Hero Quest stuff, and then like all the terrain and the snap piece together. I was just like, where is this all coming from? I don't think it's been in print for years.
Like the reason I got so hyped for the re-release is that we were playing the OG version with all the expansions and mods and a lot of custom stuff from the internet, and then Hasbro announced this re-release, and then we were like, oh hells yeah.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to put miles on that old, like that board was getting old, that box was getting worn, and like I kind of wanted to put it back up into a collector shelf and not put miles on it. And I was glad to have a new box and a new board to play the game with.
Yep.
And I do like the new minis. So a lot of the new minis are very nice.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely did a good job with it, but at the same time, like I don't know, I just I have a hard time going back to that sort of game now with printers around. So,
well, the 3D printing just enhances it. all
Well,
about custom
sure.
board.
I mean, it's like it's
I never did finish the full 3D board I wanted to build, though.
I will say that love that it's able to enhance games like Magic. You know, like where if you're not familiar with Magic the Gathering and you're listening to this, there are creature tokens and creature counters where you put like different abilities on them. And I want to say back in Ikoria a little while ago, they actually started making it like the keyword abilities were actually you can make counters. So now you can actually print a little wing and have a flight counter, and you can have a trample counter, and like to have those things actually token and painted up so that you can actually just look at them and go, oh yeah, it's got that thing on it. Because otherwise, like they had a little like rip card that you could like rip into pieces that had the stuff on it. First off, I just can't rip a card. But let's just move away from that.
Chaos confetti.
Yes. The trauma is real, Param. It is real. Do not speak of this card again. Okay, I'll talk about it. You had Chaos Orb originally, which was a card you flipped, and it was one of the few physical mechanics of Magic the Gathering. And when they made their first unset, I believe they made Chaos Confetti, where you actually shredded the card up, and every little piece of it that hit another card was destroyed. Yeah, I have seen it used. I've seen it used live more than once, and it hurt my soul. But the other thing about this sort of thing is that stuff does not weather well, right? You know, you tear up your little flight counter from the cardboard off the Ikoria back or whatever it was, and suddenly, 3 months later, it's all like cracked and dog-eared, and the paint's, like whatever that's coming off of it, and then it's like, no, you print out like one little resin token, and that thing, stays together really well, especially if you just, paint it really quick and seal it up really good.
And then you can print a little box to keep your resin tokens all organized in,
which I did do as well. That was one of my first giving. I gave away a Cthulhu themed deck box to a friend. So
we've already did an episode on like 3D printing accessories for games, and like that rabbit hole just keeps going deeper, and it enhances every game you play, having access to those sorts of little tokens that would have been like bespoke but purchases that you had hoped you found at a convention and then would brag about all year until the next convention when you bought the next because I still remember getting those little wooden life counter tokens for RPGs that let you put D10s in them and just display what your current hit point total was to your friends while you were playing Pathfinder.
Yeah, I've actually seen a couple really cool like wooden laser etched character sheets even. And they have like spin dials for your spell slots and the whole thing. It's really, really neat. But now you can also just print those.
Yep. Yeah. And I have like a project I want to do right now. When hopefully I get to do it over the Christmas break of 3D printing a Game Master screen that fits my needs. Because I have a very specific vision for what I want my Game Master screen to look like. And it's based off the Castles and Crusades had a really unique Game Master screen that I loved, but it's for Castles and Crusades, and I love that game, but like I don't play that game. If you like 5th edition, I want to go look at Castles and Crusades. They've got a lot in common.
Interesting. Yeah, I just got this guy from Matt Colville's MCDL. It's pretty cool. I'm liking it. The art's amazing on it. Anyway, but the cooler one I saw was at the World Record game that we did down in Provo. That there was a guy who had a 2.5 foot tall castle, and it was this big whole like thing, right? And it the backside of it was all the reference charts embedded and like all sorts of like built-in token trays and the whole thing. I was just like, in awe. It had to have taken like 2 weeks of FDM printing to put that thing together, though. It was amazing.
And I'm going in the opposite direction. I'm designing something small and to my specific needs, because my current game mastering style is I need the screen and some of the reference, but I do hate the big screens, these gigantic elaborate ones that just get in the way and keep me from seeing my players. I want a small little screen that just folds up discreetly and slides easily into my bag.
Yeah, I mean, I remember back that old D&D screen used to be like 4 inches?
Yeah, it was like it was basically a Trapper Keeper folder.
Yes, basically. I guess that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Ooh. Well, any other games that have changed because of 3D printing?
Well, okay. This is weird. I'm not gonna. When I said board games earlier, I was talking big, elaborate mini board games, right? But it allows me to go back to really simple board games. And I lost a dog in my Monopoly or whatever. I can go print that one piece and like restore old games.
Oh yeah, been there.
Which yes, yeah, and that to me is like it's this weird thing because I am I don't like to break the box of crayons until the old one's completely down to nubs. I don't like to play. I know it's probably a little OCD. Anyway, I don't like to mess with things, or once something's like incomplete, bugs me. Like I lose a playing card out of a deck, that is garbage.
Aww.
Right? Even if I like it or if it had cool card backs, it's like it's dysfunctional now. Like it doesn't serve its purpose anymore. And to be able to make something whole is a rare thing from the past stuff. And yeah, that to me is deep in my soul feel good moment when I'm like, I can put the piece back in here. I can make a new marker, or if you use chits for various games where like the houses in Monopoly, also the houses in hotels, right? Have you ever lost some of those? It starts to become like you can't really play the game anymore. Or if you have like your tycoon brother or sister who always likes busting out major whatever, you would run out sometimes.
That's a mechanic on purpose.
I understand, but it is the option to do that, or customize your risk game or whatever it is, right?
Yeah. For Massive Mystics is we kept running out of cheese tokens, so we printed way too many cheeses. But my friend printed them. My friend Chris did the printing on these, and he printed like these like actual cheese wedges, like look like Swiss. He hand painted them. It was so cool. And now we just have all this like little plastic cheese wheels that we use as our tokens in Massive Mystics, and it's awesome.
That's cool. You said you had a shout out.
I do have a shout out. It is time for the shout outs. So I don't like to shout out Workbench, but this has been a project I've been kind of really immersed in and part of the crew heading this. OPR just announced that we're doing our first crowdfunding campaign. It's going to be on Frontiers.
Okay.
It is a narrative campaign, so a nice story for Age of Fantasy called The Secrets of Tishel.
Ooh, okay. Tell me more.
It's going to be the Saurians are going to come into conflict with the Duchies of Vinci. I can't say much because, reasons.
Yeah.
But what has been announced is this: it's going to feature 4 new heroes for the armies, and it's got cool story and fun things are happening with that project. It's got really awesome art. And I've just been really happy about it. The pre-signups are happening now. The campaign will release in February.
May I ask questions since I am a patron and a consumer?
Sure, but just understand.
Yes,
I'll be able to answer.
Oh, this one you should be able to answer from what you just said. Does your pre-marketing sign up have an incentive?
It does. If you pre-market sign up, you get 2 free minis right away, immediately.
Nice. What are they? Can you tell me? Yeah.
It is a Saurian warrior.
Okay.
And a Vinci city guard with a crossbow.
Okay. There's free minis. There's free minis.
Yep. And it's good. It's a good minis to print out and test to see if you like them.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah. I you are always really good about keeping that out of here, but I think this is relevant, and I'm really glad you're doing the thing. I'm excited.
Yeah. If you just look at the artwork, you'll see instantly why I'm excited, because it's going to inject a lot of character into Age of Fantasy, and I'm super glad.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that because like I love, y'all's stuff. I love Artisan Guilds, but the hero character is almost always what I print out of like an AG set, right? Like 9 times out of 10, it's gonna be the hero or the hero's mount because sometimes those mounts are amazing. I printed that Displacer Beast.
Oh my gosh, such a cool model.
So cool, so cool. And yeah, so like that is something I feel like maybe hasn't been as commonly presented among your offerings, so I'm excited about that. So there's always been like leadership models, right? But like yeah, hero models are fun. I love them.
Also, if you look at the cover, the lizards are very adorable.
Yeah.
All right, that's what I've got on my shout outs. What about you?
I'm just gonna remind people, like, you have seconds left to get a printer by the time that you can get it. Otherwise, and that's if you're listening to this like when we post it, like immediately, right? Otherwise, it's time to look at like peripherals, right? So go back to last week's episode and listen to if they already got a printer list, because you can get a lot of that stuff at like Michael's or like at a cooking store or yeah. But stocking stuffers for 3D printers are easy. Yeah. Don't give up.
Yeah. And like this is still the time, like even if you won't be here by Christmas, the 3D printer is a big enough gift that you can put the shipping invoice in an envelope and give that to somebody.
That's fair.
They'll understand.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think I have any others that have jumped out at me. Oh, wait. I almost forgot. There is one.
We've got a question in chat that's very relevant.
Yeah. Well, why don't you go ahead and answer that? I'm going to look up a detail really quick on a pre-marketing for Kickstarter.
What's a good beginner 3D printer? If you listened to last episode, I do recommend go back. We give a few options, but one that I can list off right now is the one that we recommend most often, which is the Elegoo Mars 3. If you can get the Mars 3 Pro with the built-in filters, I'd say go for that. If you need to save a little bit of money, the normal Mars 3 will get you the same print quality. Amazing quality miniatures. It's capable of printing sub 20 microns, which means that it's able to print miniatures at better quality than can be produced through injection molding.
Yeah. I found what I was going to talk about. I mean, this will surprise no one. I promise I don't work for these people. I promise. But Monolith Arts has launched yet another wicked cool Kickstarter. Shadows in the Abyss is the name of it. And if you like your Night Haunt, because I just get all the proxies, so I don't actually buy the real stuff. Yeah, if that's your jam, these people do like some really cool ghosts and spirits and stuff, tons of them in their Lost Souls line. But this is our first foray into maybe more of a chaos vibe. We got some demon stuff. You know me, if it's not ghosts or tentacle monsters, it's demons. So I'm super excited.
You like your demons with tentacles.
I mean, why not?
I recommend an anime for you to watch.
Careful, it's a family-friendly show. What is it?
No, this is a family-friendly anime.
A family-friendly tentacle demon anime, right? I
Bofuri. It's called Bofuri. It was. I didn't want to get hurt. It's Bofuri. I didn't want to get hurt, so I maxed out my defense.
Is that the actual subtitle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mabel in that show becomes everything you love in miniatures.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Let's see. Damie asks, so it's a printer for your figurines, or you can print all kinds of stuff. You can print all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff.
Somebody else agreeing with me. Bofuri is so good. Yes.
Oops, Caps. I don't think that was an oops. I don't think that was an oops, Floopy. I think that was deliberate. Yeah. It's fine. Yeah, but you can print all sorts of stuff. Also with resin printers and or even FDM printers, you can change materials, so you can get some really unusual stuff together for like practical use. We've featured a lot of customizable gaming tables you can print, customizable paint stations you can print.
I've printed like camera mounts for my dad's action camera. I've printed replacement parts for my mom's throwing wheel. I've printed all sorts of cool things around the house that have nothing to do with gaming. Once you have a printer, it opens up so many possibilities.
It's true. It's true. What's a good resin for a Mars printer as a beginner? We're going to disagree.
Yeah, I'm going to say get Elegoo ABS like 1.0. It's just a good all-around resin that is not very brittle and super reliable and easy to print with.
And I'm going to say get
recommend
Sunloo. I am because
it's super cheap. Get the ABS like.
Yeah, but Sunloo is cheap. You can make mistakes. It's fine. No, don't ever apologize for asking questions, Damien.
Well, to be fair, because Sunloo exists, Elegoo ABS like has been dropping in price. I got my last bottle for $20.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Our master plan is nearly achieved. Anyway.
Yeah. So like if you do get Sunloo, get the ABS like and not the standard. Standard resins look good and is super cheap, but it's also the most brittle. And when you're learning, a little bit of leeway is nice.
Indeed. I think that's us for the night.
If you want to find out more from us, you can do so at printyourgames.com. We're also on the Facebooks. If you want to find us there, and we're on YouTube. If you want to help out the show, the best thing you can do is leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes or Spotify if you think we're worth 5 stars. If you're watching us on YouTube, the best thing you can do is give us a like and subscribe and leave a comment asking questions. We'd love to answer questions and comments. It will help people know that this is a show worth watching. Until next time, I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Parham.
I'm Kristen Sowers, also known as Seventh Mastery, and don't forget to use your screen protector.